Is it fair to completely shun tracking data? Now, tracking data, whether we like it or not, is part of the process. But without a little bit of context, I feel that it's unfair to say that, oh, tracking data is for geeks and you won't make any progress if you just track data because you're just focused on variables. Now, there's no context to that statement. It's funny because whether we like it or not, we track data. The only difference within the people that don't like a logbook or the people that don't like meticulously tracking data and the ones that do is the way in which they track that data. So for me personally, I love tracking as many variables as I possibly can with my data because that's just how I like to work as a person. It's how I like to track my own progress. I'll use a logbook in the gym so I can look back at my previous sessions. I can see what I lifted, even to the point where I write down the setup I had the machine on, the setting I had the bench on, the attachment point I had the cables at, because I want my sessions to be as quick, effective and efficient as possible. So I can literally go in, right, cable incline. I had the Bravo on setting 5. I had the pulley on setting 12. I know exactly how that setup was, so there's no far arsing around. I know exactly what weight I lifted. I know exactly how many reps I got. I know exact tempo in which I performed that execution. Now, some people might look at that and say, oh man, that's overkill. Fair enough. That's how they perceive that level of tracking. However, when you last trained, you know how much weight you lifted. So are you going to go lighter? Are you going to go heavier? There's an element of tracking there. You've recognized what you did previously and you're going into the session to try and beat it. So there's still an element of tracking data there. If we just went into the session and just made every session up as we went along, then we're, for lack of a better word, just pissing in the wind. We're literally just going in to just spin our wheels on the spot. Now, again, it all depends on the person, how the person responds, how the person finds enjoyment within this plan. And of course, there's elements to over tracking. I won't track everything. I've gone through a stage and a process and almost like a learning curve as to what works for me and what doesn't work for me. I find that when I start tracking my sleep, for example, I tend to overthink it. I wake up in the morning and go, yeah, I feel fresh. I feel ready to go. And then I could look at my sleep score and it'll be like, negative, like you slept like shit. And I'll be like, okay, I feel like I slept fine. I feel fresh. There'd be other mornings where I woke up feeling like I've been hit by a bus and be like, well, that was dog shit. And then I look at the sleep score and it's like 100%. So I know for me, that's not really an area that I want to overly pay too much attention to or too much focus on because I almost ad hoc that one. If I wake up and feel fresh in the morning and I know I've had a good sleep, cool, I had a good sleep. I'm not going to allow the Aura Ring or, the sleep tracker to go, right, don't train today because you didn't sleep very well. I'm going to play that by ear. If I feel like I need a rest day on that day, or if I feel like I'm in a shitty state because of poor sleep, I'll try and put things in place to make up for that. But I've still tracked an element of data. I'm still waking up and I'm still thinking back to how that sleep's been. I'm still analyzing how I feel. I'm still open to the idea of there is an element of tracking data there. I'm just not dictated to by an app or a tracking device or something that I can meticulously score on a piece of paper. But I'm still taking into consideration that there's data to be had there. Now, if we were to completely shun all data tracking, therefore, we wouldn't want to track macros. We wouldn't want to track scale weight of food. We wouldn't want to track body weight. We wouldn't want to attract images. These are all elements of data tracking, and it's just the degree in which we use that, which will dictate how that person enjoys their progress or not. So for the people that are completely shunning data tracking, are you not taking weekly check-in pictures? Are you not looking at your weekly progress and your pictures week on week on week to see if you are progressing, to see whether or not the area of focus is growing, to see whether or not the level of condition is improving, to monitor whether body fat is accumulating too quickly or we're not gaining any body fat whatsoever. Are you going to the gym and just jumping on a treadmill and then staring off into space and going, oh, you know, I think that's about 30 minutes, I'll jump off now? No, of course, we're getting on, we're starting the timer, we're doing 30 minutes or 40 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever it is that we're doing. And then we're getting off when the time dictates that that's been done. There's still an element of tracking data. We keep that consistently. Are we tracking our steps? You know, okay, again, to the degree of that step tracking, some people will spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds on Aura rings and tracking devices. Or have you just got your phone in your pocket and you're getting a rough idea of how many steps you're doing each day? There's so many elements and degrees of tracking data. And I feel that what this can potentially do is cause an element of confusion. It causes this split within the camp of, oh, this is how you should do it. You should just go to the gym and just train because that's how it's done. You should just lift as heavy as possible and go to failure. Perfect, if that's your element of preferred method of training. But you still remember what weight you lifted when you last trained. You don't go in 1 week and go, right, I'm going to go balls to the wall at 150 kilo squat. And then the next time you go around to doing that squat, go, well, I'm going to go 80 kilos and go balls to the wall today because that's going to be progressive overload. Unless you're doing a different style of training or unless you're doing a different method, you're constantly looking at progressing. So I feel that rather than saying, well, tracking data is for geeks, it's a waste of time, it's applying science where science isn't needed, this causes that element of confusion and that splitting camps. You know, rather than saying that, it's just better to come on and go, yeah, I prefer tracking all elements of data. I prefer putting it all into a log and looking at it over the space of a week and saying, right, this needs addressing, this needs addressing, this needs addressing. Or you can just say, right, yeah, I just track my lifts. I don't write in a logbook, but I still remember what I did last week. I don't really track my reps, but I look to try and train as hard as I possibly can and push as hard as I possibly can. And if I'm reaching that element of failure, that's progress in my eyes. Cool, that's still tracking data. Because you're still recognizing what you did a previous week and how you're correlating that to this week. It's still an element of tracking data. Like, we're in a sport, a camp, whatever we want to term this as it's impossible to not track data to some degree. Otherwise, we're literally just going in and making it up as we go along. So I think rather than next time kind of seeing posts or seeing stories or seeing educational stuff where people are saying, you know, you should do this or you should do this or you should not do this because this is the wrong way of doing it or this is the right way of doing it. It's what's the preferred method of you? Do you prefer that more relaxed approach of just going ad hoc by feel, by movement, by day? Or do you prefer tracking as many variables as possible and just having it all written down so you can compare back to it? We're all tracking data, whether we like to admit it or not. Guys, much love, stay blessed, and I will see you for the next one.